This is CBC Vancouver News.
He's a hero.
His style of play was pretty unique.
He was a warrior.
Gino! Gino! Gino!
Tributes pour in for Canuck legend Gino Ojik and the difference he made for Indigenous youth.
We know that time is money.
Paring down the permitting. The BC government plans to streamline provincial paperwork for building homes. But what about cities?
In Vancouver, when you apply for a permit, it takes over a year.
And a shout out for love. We're asking you to share your stories. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. The family of Canuck legend Gino Ojik is being inundated with messages of love and thanks after the former enforcer and fan favorite died over the weekend. He was 52.
The enforcers in the game and in the sport are very underappreciated. Most of the fighters are all very, very smart men. As you're all finding out now, that Gino Ojik was a very, very smart guy.
There might have been tougher people, but nobody that was tougher-minded, if you know what I mean. He gave it everything he had.
He's very big for the community and stuff, but yeah, it's sad for sure.
Ojik played 8 seasons here in Vancouver, starting in 1990, a beloved tough guy known for his fierce play, a crucial member of the 94 squad that made it all the way to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals before losing to the New York Rangers. Ojik retired from hockey in 2002.
I grew up watching Gino Ojik, as did many folks who live in Vancouver and in British Columbia. And, you know, he was always one of the fan favorites for the Canucks, just a true legend. And he was known as an enforcer on the ice, but off the ice, he was a gentle giant of sorts.
Ojik was Algonquin from Quebec. On and off the ice, he served as a role model to other Indigenous players. In the 1995 offseason, he trekked from Calgary to Vancouver through 20 Indigenous communities, all to raise awareness of the dangers of drugs and alcohol. His biggest fight came in 2014 when he was diagnosed with a rare terminal illness. Despite being given just weeks to live, he soldiered on. Yesterday, though, Ojik's sister confirmed he had died. John Hernandez has more on his lasting impact.
Please, you guys are young. Don't ever sell yourself short.
Education gives you the freedom to make choices in life. That was the message Gino Ojik made sure he gave to kids who would listen.
We were 2 little old Indian boys who grew up on the res. You know, if we can do it, why can't you?
Peter Leach and Ojik were as close as brothers. The pair traveled to Indigenous communities across Canada, mentoring youth for well over a decade.
We always looked at the work we did within the communities as medicine for us.
Let's hear it for Gino.
What started as workshops on sports evolved into something much bigger.
A young lady we met at 13 years old. She wanted to thank us. She came up and thanked both Gino and I personally. She said we helped influence her become a lawyer. She was 27 years old when we seen her again and told us that she was a lawyer.
During his spiritual journey of health walk from Alberta to Vancouver, organizers say Ojik squeezed in just about as many pit stops as possible.
He was greeted by all ages of people. I remember that, from little ones all the way up to elders. You know, it really meant a lot to those First Nation communities that he was making an effort to show up.
Many of the kids he met would eventually take to the ice, including current Vancouver Canuck Ethan Bear, who called Ojik a mentor.
Cross Bear scores!
And scored this goal shortly after he died.
His style of play was pretty unique, and I think that gave a lot of a different mentality to our youth. It's like, okay, like some youth may not or know they're not like a goal scorer, but they know they can still make it to the NHL playing that type of style.
On Monday, the outpouring of love and remembrance continued.
He's a hero to many people, many hockey players, and it was very sudden.
You know, he showed a lot of courage. You know, he was a warrior. You know, he was a warrior.
Strength and resilience that will continue to inspire long after his passing. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
It is a move meant to cut red tape and try to speed up the number of homes being built in BC. The provincial government says it plans to streamline the process for getting provincial permits. Those delays are often blamed for a shortage in our housing supply and for pushing prices up. But as Zara Premji tells us, People in the building business say a big choke point is at city halls.
Right now, if you're building a home in the province, the paperwork probably feels never-ending.
120 pounds worth of paper applications.
And who to file it to, even more confusing. If you want to build a home and it is subject to provincial regulations, you could require multiple provincial permit applications across separate ministries, and each may have a different process, from water licenses to road rezoning and heritage inspections.
The current average wait time, as I understand it, for provincial permits is about 2 years.
We know that time is money. The longer it takes to permit these projects, the more expensive it is for developers, and most importantly, the more expensive it is for people looking to purchase or rent homes in this province.
The Premier says this new one-stop approach will streamline this all into one coordinated approach.
Ultimately, a goal of months for approval.
But this provincial solution doesn't solve the potential paperwork debacle you'll face in each of your municipalities.
Hiring 42 new employees shows a real seriousness on the government's part to tackle permitting issues. The elephant in the room is municipal approvals. I don't think we're really looking at any immediate change at the municipal level.
Vancouver City Councillor Christine Boyle echoes this. She tells CBC, unless your home is very close to a shoreline or there's an archaeological site nearby, for example, this won't change things for you too much. Some developers and builders agree, calling for an overhaul in each municipality too.
In Vancouver, when you apply for a permit, it takes over a year and sometimes a year and a half.
He hopes municipalities will mirror what the province has just introduced.
The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing right now. And I feel that when I call them, if we can cut all the crap and then bring it together in one stop, I think that will help.
Boyle says while she can't speak for every region, Vancouver will be discussing streamlining options at its next meeting. And the Premier says he'll be holding municipalities accountable and keeping tabs. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Speaking of construction, BC's tallest building could be coming to Surrey. A 67-story mixed-use high-rise is being proposed near the Surrey Central SkyTrain station. It would have up to 750 new residential homes, along with a 7-story commercial and office podium. All but 2 people were opposed to the project at Surrey's council meeting tonight. One, though, says they're worried about congestion.
The important thing here is the TIA and your understanding. Will the public be safe? Will traffic be safe in this immediate intersection area? I don't think so.
If approved, the project will be taller than the Living Shangri-La here in downtown Vancouver and the 65-story Gilmore Place in Burnaby. That tower is set to be built by 2025. Vancouver City Council has its first meeting of the new year tomorrow. One of the first items up for discussion is a fairly old problem: how to make Chinatown cleaner and safer. For more on this, Justin McElroy joins us. Justin, what are the tangibles here? What could actually change?
Yeah, this has been a conversation, Dan, for a number of years, of course. What picked up during the pandemic is there was more graffiti in the area as well as crime. And so one of the first actions of this new city government was to put forward a motion to staff asking what are some areas that could quickly have funds put towards it to try and improve the area. And they've come back with a number of recommendations, including $390,000 for cleanup programs. That includes both litter and feces in the area, graffiti removal and prevention, $210,000, as well as putting a city office in Chinatown for 6 months that would be staffed. In addition, there's about $1.5 million more for the rest of the city for cleanup and graffiti removal in there. But the priority is Chinatown, and some people might say we've heard this before from city councils in the past of trying to improve the area. What's going to happen this time? But one city councillor who's been a proponent of this says this will have tangible actions.
There's $700,000 of specific, dedicated, direct funding to Chinatown, and these are tangible measures that the community has been asking for, including increased sanitation and help with a lot of the day-to-day issues that really make it difficult for those struggling businesses to survive. So we call the motion Uplifting Chinatown for a reason. I think it is a positive step forward.
So it's in front of council on Tuesday. If passed, the money should start flowing in the second quarter of this year.
Okay, Chinatown not the only part of downtown being discussed this week by council.
Yeah, no, certainly not. The Granville Strip, another area that has been oft discussed over the past few years in the city. There, the issue is slightly different. Yes, crime is an issue, though it's nightlife involved, trying to get the right mix of housing and services in the area, as well as businesses trying to get it back to where it might have been 10, 20 years ago. There's a new report from staff saying here are the principles for a new plan for the area, the guidelines of how building would happen in the future. Again, a new ABC Vancouver government hoping to make their mark. They've identified several areas as priorities over the next 4 years, Chinatown and the Granville Strip, two of them. We'll see what their first attempts look like over the next couple days.
Lots of work ahead. Justin McElroy, thanks very much. To other news now, a year has now passed since the body of a young woman was found in a Kelowna park, and loved ones are demanding answers. Today, members of the community gathered outside the Kelowna courthouse to remember Austin Godfrey. She was 25 years old when she was found dead. The RCMP says there has been no update on the investigation, and her death is still classified as suspicious. First Nations are meeting in Vancouver this week for the third national gathering on missing children and unmarked burials. This comes as Indigenous communities across Canada conduct searches for children forced to attend residential schools who never came home. The gathering aims to establish a framework for Indigenous communities to have access to church and government records that help them identify unmarked burials. Last week in Saskatchewan, the Star Blanket Cree Nation announced it had uncovered remains at a former residential school.
And we already know. We know what we've been through. This data that the governments hold and that churches hold really allows everyone across Turtle Island, now known as Canada, to have access to that truth. And that's why this exercise is really important.
Chief Archibald says they are looking for the truth, and access to information from the government has been limited. To a different Vancouver Canucks story now. If you're a fan frustrated with the team's dismal performance this season, the president of the club feels the same. Jim Rutherford says the Canucks need, quote, major surgery to win.
I definitely know we have to change it, okay? And, you know, I'm disappointed in the job I've done to this point, okay? Because when I first came here, I talked about getting control of the cap, you know, getting the cap back to where it is, getting rid of some contracts, and we haven't been able to do that. Now, the opportunity hasn't been there, but it's still my job to get it done.
Rutherford claims he hasn't been able to make the adjustments. He wants to make the team more competitive. He says he does not plan to change any core players right now.
Between now and the start of next season, we're going to have to make some changes. Some won't be very popular. Some will be popular. But we're going to have to really do some things that I didn't think we would normally have to do when I first got here on how we make those changes.
Rutherford argues they need to bring in players 26 or younger within the next 2 years. He says he understands fans are fed up, but stresses fixing the team will take a long time. The Government of Canada is investing in one of Victoria's key arts and culture spaces with $117,000 for a University of Victoria auditorium.
During the pandemic, so many of these spaces were closed. And I think we really started to get, in a lot of us, a better appreciation for who we are and how the arts contribute to society, how important it is for us, and how important it is to come together as communities.
The money will go toward upgrading sound, video, and lighting equipment, among other changes. It's also meant to support cultural programming like the Indigenous-led and curated presentation series Voices in Circle. Biddle says the programming ensures audiences and performers can explore cultural resurgence and language revitalization. If you've ever felt that city life is perhaps not for you, maybe it's time to consider the coast in a really big light. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans and the Canadian Coast Guard wants to hire assistant lighthouse keepers. They're looking for people to work in Nootka Sound, Cape Scott, or Langara Point on Haida Gwaii. If you're interested, you need to have a valid restricted radio certificate, know first aid, and get security clearance. The postings note you should also be comfortable living on the edge of the ocean, naturally. We would like to ask for your help with this next story. Hard to believe, but we are fast approaching the month of February. And we here at CBC News are interested in doing some special programming about love in all its forms. Whether it's a whirlwind romance, a parent who always showed you patience, or that friend who helped you move with their truck on a weekend, we want to share your stories with our audience. To nominate someone special, email us at bcasks@cbc.ca, bcasks@cbc.ca. Please make the subject line of your email Love Story 2023, and we will do our darndest to share it in one of our broadcasts next month.
What they're proposing is not reasonable, and it's going to get a lot worse.
Concentrated flight paths for planes heading to YVR is supposed to reduce airplane noise for tens of thousands of people. But some are not convinced. That story takes flight after this. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. Hundreds of unusual plants of all shapes and sizes are getting used to their new home in a large greenhouse in Nova Scotia. If you go there, you'll find hardy citrus trees from Japan, pineapple guavas with petals that apparently taste like marshmallows, and something called a blue sausage tree. Take a look.
It's still in construction, but we are building a greenhouse that is very tall so I can grow my fruit trees in there.
Can you show me inside? Let's
Yes.
take a look.
Well, as I said, it's still in construction, so when we moved over here, we just put all the plants in pots for now, just so that they survive. And what I'm going to do in here is we're planting samples of all the different fruit, because it's mostly fruit and plants that people probably haven't seen before, or at least never tasted the fruit of. We have over 65 to 70 different types, and we're adding more all the time, but we have things like persimmons, we have lots of figs, we have 5 flavor fruits, we have something unusual, a blue sausage tree. I love that one. It comes from the border of China, Tibet there, and it has a metallic blue sausage-like fruit. And it tastes like jello inside and tastes like watermelon with some lemon. This is called a flying dragon. It comes from Japan originally. It's a contorted lemon, and you just have to be really careful. It has those spikes, those hooked spikes, and you can make an impenetrable hedge out of it when you plant those as a hedge. I'm actually specializing on hardy ones because I don't want to sell things that are a lot of work. I want to cut down on, for example, the carbon footprint by growing easy exotics or unusual plants here, so it doesn't have to be transported from far away. I grow from seed, I grow from cuttings, and some I have to bring in. I just love reading and doing research, so I just got all those different plant books about unusual fruit and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and where could I get it? These are all persimmons, and I just can't believe how much those little sticks already produce here. This is called Nikita's gift. They have to get really, really soft. They're more like a little juice bag, and it's incredibly sweet, like really sweet, juicy jelly.
Wow,
when
I've
they're
never
really ripe.
had one before.
Yeah, no, you have to come back when they're ripe. I love good food. We had a few times where we didn't have any money and we had to actually do dumpster diving, and we picked fruit from other people's trees that didn't pick, right? And so fruit was this one staple I loved. When I have a seed, I cannot throw it out. I could never throw it. It hurts inside, kind of, because I know this little seed has all the life in it, right? And I just love my plants, same as I would my children, my pets, or whatever, right? I just have the responsibility. When I have them, they're dependent on me, and I have to take care of them. We will do workshops here. We will do all those other events where people can come and just enjoy, like tasting events, but I also want to offer, for example, how to build this, how to grow those fruit, what they need, how to collect your rainwater, how to have a self-sufficient system. It's just so nice to share that excitement about it and share the fruit and provide nutrition at the same time.
Canada's air traffic controller is charting a new course for many planes bound for Metro Vancouver. NAV Canada wants more aircraft to fly into YVR in concentrated flight paths. It says the changes will reduce airplane noise for tens of thousands of people. Some, though, are not convinced. Liam Britton has more on this potentially turbulent situation. Liam, first of all, what is changing over the sky of Lower Mainland?
Well, basically, new satellite technology means airplanes can fly in tighter, more concentrated paths. Have a look at this map. It illustrates the flight path for one of YVR's runways. In blue are the flight paths now. They're all over the place. The thick white line shows the more concentrated path. NAV Canada says this will mean fewer people, about 61,000, are exposed to louder airplane noise. While NavCan says it can reduce the number of people exposed to airplane noise, however, it can't reduce them to zero. Kerry Robson lives near the proposed flight path in Burnaby. He says airplane noise is bad enough right now.
What they're proposing is not reasonable, and it's going to get a lot worse because air traffic is resuming.
Meanwhile, a wildlife group is worried what this will mean for eagles, saying the new paths will have some planes flying lower.
They're trying to move it down lower in altitude, closer to the ground, where the eagles are then just up into that same airspace flying, and it's the densest breeding population and the densest wintering population of bald eagles in North America.
And yet another group is worried what this will mean for the great outdoors. Nudists. Don Pitcairn with Surrey's United Naturists says they like to relax near Crescent Beach, but that's right under one flight path.
One flight path is going to be going right by Crescent Beach, which of course is the public beach area for about 750,000 people in Surrey and the Fraser Valley. And that's the main beach for all of the people in Surrey.
All sorts of concerns, to say the least. Liam, what is next in all this?
Well, nothing is set in stone. NAV Canada wasn't available for an interview today, but they are holding public consultation sessions all this month, online and in person. They have a list of events on their website. Now, Delta Councillor Dylan Kruger is encouraging people to get involved. He acknowledges YVR does have a need for flight paths, and he likes that they're not so spread out, but he wants them to be where they will have the least impact.
As much as we can do to ensure that we get those routes out of our residential areas, the better it would be for our residents.
So the plan likely won't be set up fully until late this year. Dan?
Liam Britton, thanks very much. CBC News has confirmed a Canadian volunteer medic who once called BC home has died fighting in Ukraine. The father of Grigory Sektmistrenko says his son died over the weekend near Bakhmut. That city has seen months of fierce combat. The 28-year-old lived for years in Saskatchewan and on Port Alice, in Port Alice on Vancouver Island. He's believed to be the third Canadian to die in Russia's war in Ukraine. We are ramping up to a bit more rain across the south coast. Johanna will have your BC-wide forecast with a hint of sun right after this.
There are a number of reasons the Vancouver Canucks are Western Conference champions and 4 wins away from a Stanley Cup. Pavel Bure and Kirk McLean are 2 of the biggest. But there is another much less obvious reason, one the players are convinced has had something to do with their playoff success. Very superstitious. Even if they are a little reluctant to admit it.
Everybody's got something they do to hope it works.
Let's look at the Vancouver Canucks pre-period ritual at one of their recent playoff games. To many of you, it might simply look like 20 players skating wherever they please. It's not so. Even here, the Canucks have a system. Watch number 29, Gino Ojik. After tapping Kirk McLean, he heads directly to the bench before anyone else.
I always wished that I didn't get hurt playing hockey, and just something in my mind that if I'm first on the bench, it protects me.
Nearly every player has a part in the routine. This is Martin Jelena.
Yeah, I skate around until there's about 10 seconds left in the clock, and I just stand there and I wait for Kurt to come back, and then I just go across and tap everybody.
Backup goalie Kay Whitmore takes his spot in front of Tim Hunter before wishing his fellow goalie good luck.
Mac and I laugh at all the guys' stupid things they do, and here I am caught up in one of the biggest ones. Like, I know when I'm playing it, it's like, just get it over with, because it takes, the other team's already lined up, and we have 20 guys still standing there waiting for someone to give them the key to go.
I tap the goalie in the pads and the crest and say, have a good game, goalie.
But you get a certain spot there.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of right behind Whitmore, because Whitmore does something to the goalie too, and I like to see that happen, and Kirk kind of flinches and laughs, and then we have our fun, on we go.
But not before Gerald Diddick does his thing from the goalpost to McLean's right.
That's just my spot. Everybody has their spot for when we come by and pat Mac on the pads or whatever.
The finishing touch on the routine is applied by Dave Babbage. He hits his stick off the boards, off the glass, off the net, and off McLean's shoulder. But don't ask him why.
I have no idea. You know, I've been doing it for years, and I got to be the last one to touch the goalie too, or you know, I start thinking, oh, something's wrong here.
They know it all so well. They can even do it in the dark.
The hell if it works, let's keep doing it.
When you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition is way.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Celebrate the city's most impactful leaders with Anita Bath at the annual Vancouver Magazine Power 50 Awards. Join the fun February 2nd at the Terminal City Club. Learn more and get tickets at vanmag.com. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
Just before we get to our provincial weather, if the middle of January has you wondering if you'll ever get out of winter, take a look at this. It is the world's largest snow maze just south of Winnipeg, understandably. And this year it's getting even bigger. It has 1,400 meters of corridors, but is also getting a new restaurant and a pavilion with live entertainment. The maze, built entirely from artificial snow, entered the Guinness Book of World Records in 2019.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe. We can't blame it on the rain, Joe.
No.
But can we stick with it? Didn't think you'd hear the Milli Vanilli reference tonight, did you, folks?
No way, yeah. We can't blame it on the rain. We are sticking with the rain. We can't even stick it to the rain.
No,
but
don't do that.
No, it's coming. We've got one more big system sliding in from the Pacific. You can see it moving in on the satellite right now. It's not a true atmospheric river. It doesn't quite tap into some subtropical moisture, but it's going to bring with it some winds as well as a good 50 millimeters of rain to parts of Metro Vancouver, really ramping up tomorrow afternoon. So let me take you through the timing. First of all, the showers that we're seeing tonight tapering off. I've got to keep the risk of showers in through your Tuesday, but they'll be light until about 4 p.m. And that's when we'll see the heavier of the rain move in. So this is the system right now, the top end in the Alaska Panhandle. We sort of get the warm front sliding in through the day. It's when the cold front swings through on Wednesday that we'll look for big winds. We may see some wind warnings issued across the south coast for Tuesday night into Wednesday. Wednesday morning is, I think, when we'll see the biggest of the gusts as this cold front slides through Metro Vancouver. So rainy and windy through Tuesday into Wednesday, and then dramatic clearing behind for a sunny Thursday in the forecast. That's something to look forward to. Williams Lake, you've got the sun tomorrow. Kelowna hoping to see some more sun. It was nice to see that today. Prince George hoping for some sun in the afternoon. And if you're up towards Fort St. John, lots of sun in your long-range forecast. So ramping up from the showers to heavier rain by about 4 p.m. tomorrow. Wednesday morning, windy, and this is where we're talking 30 to 50 millimeters through Wednesday. Behind that cold front, we get the sun back for Thursday, maybe even Friday. Little shot of moisture on the weekend, but snow levels will be low enough. This is all good news for the local ski resorts. And then, look at this, Dan, cold and clear trend.
Look at that.
I even put a snowflake in there.
Because why not? Because it's January.
Yeah, yes, and the models did show that, not just because, but
Science.
Exactly.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
That's your late news for Monday. Thanks for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. It starts tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. Have a good night.